Welcome, everybody. This is our podcast of the century, and we are Group 7. Today, we have a rather interesting bunch of people that we invited for our podcast today. These people are critical thinkers in today's society. Some might even say the philosophers of today's world, specializing in digital topics and how it impacts society. These bunch of people are here now. Introducing JJ Silva, Ken D, and Joey Anastacio. Now, I understand you guys are specialists and are quite knowledgeable with the implications of digital technology in today's world. I recently read an article from the UNICEF that talks about the implications of digital technology in children. Specifically, it talks about the marginalized and the disadvantaged children from low income societies. While the report talks about the positive effects of it also mentioned something interesting that catches my eye. The so-called digital divide talks about the missed opportunities for these marginalized. So the first part of the article talks about the unconnected. So who exactly and what exactly is the unconnected? Do you guys have any thoughts? Maybe Candy?
Yeah, I have thoughts about the unconnected. But before I start, I'll give a short introduction. So, the internet has greatly influenced our lives. Having access to the digital world opens up numerous opportunities, such as developing skills, expanding knowledge, and communicating efficiently. These opportunities has a big impact on the growth of the youth, especially at a time where technology is rapidly growing. However, not everyone worldwide has access to the internet. So, who are these children? 29% of the world population, with the age range of 15 to 24 years old, currently do not use the internet. The majority of the unconnected comes from the Africa or Asia and the Pacific, since nearly 9 out of 10 are unconnected from the two regions, with Africa having the highest proportions of non-users among 15 to 24-year-olds. In some low-income countries, such as Bangladesh and Zimbabwe, fewer than 1 in 20 children under 15 years old use the internet, and low-income countries face numerous barriers of access. And the high-income countries too are no exception, since family income is one of the barrier that is important for the online needs of the children. Rural areas in some countries, such as Zimbabwe, Cameroon, and Malawi, experience very low connectivity compared to those in urban areas. And those low connectivity is likely worsened by high data costs. And to add, most of the countries with the least affordable mobile broadband prices are also among the least developed countries in Africa and Asia and the Pacific. Aside from the costs, gender is also an issue that prevents some youth from connecting to the digital world that this will be discussed by Joey.
Thank you, Ken, for the insights and information that you provided. So now I'm going to talk about the persistent gender gap in the digital world. So in 2016, the global gap in the internet use between men and women grew from 11% in 2013 to 12% in 2016. In particular, this gap can be seen in some low-income countries showed in the figure. From a global perspective, the gender digital divide is proving incredibly difficult to overcome, reflecting broader and social gender inequalities. Next, please. A data collected by the GSM Association states that girls and women in some low and middle income countries are being prevented from using technological devices due to their social norms, education level, lack of technical literacy, and lack of confidence. Even based on a study in low and middle income countries, girls are exposed to technology at a much older age than boys, and their access are more reduced and supervised. In India alone, only 29% are female internet users. The rural areas in the country, such as Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh, restrict girls from using mobile phones and social media, believing that these would cause increased crimes against girls and women. Next. If this case of preventing girls and women be exposed from the digital world continue, some serious consequences might follow, like not being able to access online services and information will prevent them from gaining knowledge about issues that may concern their health and sexuality. such as HIV and puberty. As more women are now being recognized in the field of economy, of in the field of global economy rather, girls that are being excluded from the digital age may lose their potential to further their education and develop their skills. Then, access to social and political information is essential, especially on issues that affects them. Lastly, as the digital world is now a platform for voicing out concerns and fighting for what is right, being excluded from the digital world might hinder them from this opportunity. Next. Although innovation of technologies gives us a different perspective of the world, the transition to an inclusive information society that offers opportunities for all is a major global challenge. Despite the inequality in the digital age, technologies are increasingly becoming part and parcel of everyday life. That even in rural areas, people have shown a readiness to embrace mobile technologies. If we want a world where everyone can have the opportunity to embrace the digital age, we need to spread awareness broadly and reconsider the respective roles of both technology and educators. Besides, technologies serve no purpose without a human dimension. Next. The digital revolution is not just learning how to use new resources and technology. It is about a significant paradigm shift in people's mindsets and behaviors. These three organizations play a big role in helping children cope up with digital age and their education as well. Organizations like the Joko Kids Project offer extracurricular workshops to children to help them learn about the connection between digital technologies and other subject areas. The Futu Oprazon helps girls aged 6 to 10 who were victims of child labor by encouraging them to return to school. And then the Ideas Box Project offers sessions where children can learn about digital technologies, robotics, and even self-expression. Programs like these encourage children to see the link between theories and practices. Through this multidisciplinary approach of teaching digital concepts along other subject areas, children are able to gain confidence in their abilities and make a steady progress towards their full potential. So that's it. That's all for the gender gaps and for the gender gaps. Thank you.
Hmm. Very interesting, Joey. I always wondered what causes these digital divides and gender gaps. I've actually read this part of the report that talks about the barriers in online connectivity. I think this is what causes the gender gap and all else. There are a lot of barriers that prevent people from establishing a good connection, like power, connectivity, etc. But I think the most prominent ones are digital illiteracy and income. It is not enough for children to have access to the internet. They need a strong knowledge and foundation with regards to it. People are not always aware of using the internet properly, especially in low income countries. There was a data in particular that shows that females are less confident and think that the digital world is generally not for them, probably explaining the gender gap that Joey talked about. Income also comes into a role, especially in low income countries. It's quite contradicting, really, as I heard stories in low income countries that data companies charge high costs for them. It's quite sad. Also, in the previous article that I read, written by Benoyer, it talks about digital inequalities in times of COVID. And really, the things that he discussed there are quite similar to the digital divide in the internet, if you think about it. According to Benoyer, the digital inequality is divided into technical autonomy, social support, and experience. In a way, he was right about it, and as we see similar results coming from the general barriers in online connectivity, I think the thing that I really want to point out is the social support network. Usually, in the time of the pandemic, digital deserts do not receive any social support networks. It's worse for low income countries as their cybersecurity are quite weak, thus making them vulnerable to hackers and scammers. Anyway, I just wanted to share a different perspective on looking at the barriers of connectivity. That being said, theoretically, if we say that all barriers are removed, then how do we equip these children for the digital world? Before we do that, I want to talk about these second level divides that are still present in today's society. Basically, it divides the digital world into two groups. From what I understand, they are the information consumers, usually found in the lower income countries, and the information creators, which we see in the middle and higher class society. So the lower income countries simply do not have the means to create information. They have connection issues, no power, all the barriers that we talked about. Some of them are not even aware of the advanced online services that you can incur, such as the e-commerce, thus wasting opportunities. So what do we do? Well, there are several different ways we can do. Create policies, educate, lower data costs, expand ICTs, and eliminate language barriers. Helping digital deserts get access to the internet is not enough. We need to educate the people, and by doing that, we need to eliminate language barriers. I understand that the internet is a multilingual society, but most of the information there is in English. I remember this one Japanese man who wanted to learn comp sci, but he couldn't because all the websites related to comp sci were in English. Anyway, having said that, what do you think is applied for the future of those who are digitally divided, JJ?
Thanks, Lance. Thanks for having me. And pleasant morning to all. So, what
Good
is the
morning.
future? So, pointing the way forward. Digital literacy and digital citizenship. These are the primary tools needed for the future of digital technology and of our children. This is needed to fully understand what it means to socialize online and also to behave responsibly and keep themselves safe online, and lastly, to advocate for their interest on those of their communities. Cuba, a brief timeline. By 1987, the Joven Club of Cuba, or also known as the Youth Club of Cuba, has initiated a project to help children across the island by providing connectivity and even lend devices for using different digital platforms. Fast forward by 2015, Cuba established public Wi-Fi hotspots across the country. This is something odd since they took them that late to put up this kind of initiative. To give you guys a bit bigger picture, to give you a bit more perspective of what I am trying to say. It was the year 1997 when the first public hotspots were introduced in the world. So uh, when you use the math, it took them 18 years for this long overdue breakthrough. You can see in these numbers can be alarming since some countries still don't consider technology as a thing for the future. There are still areas across the countries of Cuba, India, and Tanzania who are struggling to make ends meet. Africa also shares the same sentiments. What really stood out from the numbers that I looked at is how Nigeria is only the African country that cracked to the top 10 of countries with the most mobile subscribers. This is also an alarming feat for how illiterate citizens of Africa are. With this, the children are the ones affected due to the inexperience of adults and adolescents. Lastly, this can also pose threats in the future of their job security as artificial intelligence and robots have made their mark for more efficient labor and capital. On a lighter note, these are the activities that kids across the world do with their gadgets. I personally believe and advocate that they should be involved in technology in order to improve their holistic well being and specifically their creativity. Although younger audiences should be guided and moderated with their consumption, it benefits them through the years that they have a solid background on what would be like in the future. So, what can we do? What are our best solutions? Just like the scientific method, there should be an organized train of ideas to be conducted accordingly for the improvement of the children's future. These are the methods that we should follow in order to provide a holistic development across the world when it comes to digital literacy uh, amongst every children and even adults of the future generation. So for number one, active community participation. I believe that there should be interaction amongst different groups and sectors of the government to diagnose the real problems that the world is experiencing. Number two, in-depth research. We need research to objectively solve the issues collected in number one. This researches may benefit and guide world leaders on what strategies should be imposed, such as subsidies for the poor, set up public Wi-Fi's in neighborhoods, and even donation drives for different common gadgets that we should use today, such as laptops or mobile phones. Number three, conducting the research. After conducting the research, it is now time for state leaders to impose fair policies. These policies should be efficient in order to minimize waste that can arise during the implementation. These policies also should prioritize the poor as they are the ones who are catching up to the trend. And lastly, with that, it is always let us always try to help the poor. To improve the quality of their living is also a decrease in poverty, uh, children who are starving, and also a decrease in children who are exploited in premature labor. In conclusion, my key takeout my key takeaway is simple. I call on the leaders of today and the innovations of the future to work hard in hand to support our children. It is a right that children should be taught in school with lessons to equip them sooner or later. The commitment and passion to serve is the first step in fulfilling our greatest goal in preserving science as social and political for the good of the majority. That ends my train of thoughts. Let me know what you guys think.
Oh yeah, that was very interesting, JJ. I kind of agree with you when you said leaders should take initiatives. You know, opportunities are being wasted because children are not equipped for the digital world. Look at chapter 1, which shares stories of children using digital technology to create other helpful things that help other disadvantaged children. We all need to do our part in society so that technology can progress for the better of society. Um, those are my final thoughts. And with that, unfortunately, we are at our ends. And first and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone for participating, all the guest stars. Thank you for sharing your
Thank you.
insights with this. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to all who are watching this right now. Thank you for tuning into our podcast. We hope you have a wonderful day. God bless. Thank you.